And not only were they treated to a big win, but they were also treated to a big hit. The biggest hit of the night from the security. Today on the show, we talk AFL and NRL, Wimbledon, Formula One, UFC, and cricket, where Stuart Broad bowls the most expensive over in Test history. Oh, just one off his personal best. You hate to see it. This is $0 given. Starting things off with the AFL, some great games. We had Essendon beating Sydney in a bit of a shock. Obviously, it was a bit of a spicy game with the whole Luke Parker incident from the last time. And yeah, it didn't go too well for him. Oof, boy, that's a bit awkward. God. In his 250th, by the way. I mean, Essendon still aren't playing finals, though. So I still think Parker wins. Freo held off a very fast finishing Port Adelaide to see out their win. We had the three Riolis facing off against each other in the Richmond West Coast game. Both of, or should I say, all of them scored. 7 AFL compared Buddy Franklin's AFL contract with Nikola Jokic's NBA contract. I'm not sure what point they were trying to make, but you know, it's really funny. That 10 million for Buddy's in Australian dollars, that 264 is in USD. So that's like nearly 400 million. Yeah, it was a bizarre comparison. Now do AFL men's and women's. No, I'm smart enough to not get involved in that. Let's think of something else. Okay, Robbie Williams is going to be the... You know what? I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm super keen to see Robbie Williams as the pre-game entertainment. And just quietly, how about this for some hang time? What an absolute screamer in the local league. You love to see it. Over in the NRL, the Storm took another loss this season, the 36-30 win for the Sea Eagles. St. George also got a very narrow, just 2-point win over the Raiders. And the New Zealand Warriors played their first game back at home in over 1,000 days, and they won 22-2. Everyone in the NRL so happy to finally see them returning back to New Zealand. And not only were they treated to a big win, but they were also treated to a big hit. The biggest hit of the night from the security. And not the only pitch invader this week as well, you know. We saw a pretty big hit in New Zealand, but my God, that is a late hit. Security guard are going to be looking at months for that. But anyway, looking at the other side of the rugby spectrum, I know this isn't NRL, but Australia did get a 30-28 win over England, so they take a 1-0 series lead. They pretty much got the win with only 14 men as well, so sensational by the Wallabies. And in the words of Bruce McAvaney, how about this delicious scran at Optus Stadium? My God, Australia outclassing England at rugby and at bangers and mash. I mean, hell, we're eating better than those at Wimbledon. Look at this, 11 pounds for the most average chicken and chips you'll ever see. And God, they're charging 7 pounds for a pint. That's like 13 bucks Australian. And that's barely a pint. My goodness, there were 4 Aussies in the round of 16 at Wimbledon, right? Only 2 of them managed to get out, one of which, of course, was Nick Kyrgios. Battling through a bit of a dodgy shoulder, but he makes it to the quarterfinals for the second time. And by the way, this graphic goes so hard, man. He won his game against Nakajima, but it was the game before that against Tsitsipas, which was what was full of drama. Tsitsipas was losing his cool. Nick Kyrgios went off at the umpires after they refused to kick Tsitsipas out for basically just smashing a ball into the crowd. All while at the same time pulling off shenanigans like this. I mean, are you kidding me, Nick? Like, a tweener isn't enough, an underarm serve isn't enough. Nah, stuff it. I'm just going to combine the two. And it's got to be said, Demon Orr really, he choked. Still love him, but look, he bottled a 2-lead set. He lost 2 tie breaks. He's the only person at Wimbledon to lose a match after taking the first 2 sets. But it's not all bad though, because Tomljanovic actually had a comeback win and got the win against Cornet, so she's going to the quarters as well. And normally, I don't have time for people that hate on Nick Kyrgios, but this was by far the tweet of the week. Nick Kyrgios is so unlikable, whatever. He has me, someone with a lisp, cheering for a man called Stefanos Tsitsipas. It was the British Grand Prix at the Formula One this weekend, so the British bias was bloody mad, but Carlos Sainz ended up winning. He is now the second driver along with Fernando Alonso from Spain to win a race. And we saw one of the biggest crashes in Formula One in recent memory. Guan Yu Zhou flipping over, getting stuck between the fence and the tires. It is amazing how he pretty much walked away from this thing completely unscathed. God bless the halo. This thing has genuinely saved a life or two in Formula One since coming in. Mick Schumacher, obviously the son of Michael Schumacher, got his first ever Formula One point, which is fantastic to see as well. There were protesters at the race as well. I mean, if you want to protest, sure, fine, that's within your right. Are you really going to sit in the middle of a Formula One track, risk getting pulverized at 200 miles an hour? That is some dedication to a cause. But yeah, Verstappen didn't have a great race. He got some damage and fell to 7th, but actually did pretty well to even get 7th, but he still leads the Drivers' Championship. Look at this. It's just, it's so tight. It's so beautiful. The Mercedes dominance era is done, and Formula One is probably the best it's ever been. And at UFC 276, we saw both the Kiwi and the Aussie retain their belts. Alexander Volkanovski just seriously one of, if not the greatest featherweight of all time, winning again. He beats Max Holloway for the 3rd time. Max, thankfully, is all good. His fanboys, oh my God, just hold that. Whining for years he'd been robbed in the previous 2 races, and yet Alexander Volkanovski left him looking like this again. Israel Adesanya also fought as well and had one of the best walkouts ever, just imitating The Undertaker. He is literally just untouchable in the ring. And I mean literally, they don't know how to land a punch on this guy. In fact, the only loss that Israel Adesanya has had in years was this press conference. Sean Strickland absolutely took him to town. It was one of the funniest things I've seen in ages. Sadly, all that talk didn't really help him out too much in the octagon. I still like Sean anyway. How Dana White feels calling a 34-year-old professional fighter a kid. Well, either way, people, it's time to wrap things up. It is Legend of the Week time. Of course, over on my Twitter, I ask you guys every single weekend for your nominees for Legend of the Week. So here's what we've got. George Russell for effectively giving up the race to check on Guan Yu Zhou. He was caught up in the crash at turn 1 at the start of the race, and because he got out of his car, he was basically DQ'd from the race, and he probably could have stayed in it, but he immediately just instincts took over, went and checked on Guan Yu Zhou. So gotta rate that. Guan Yu Zhou himself for basically still being alive, fair enough. Nick Kyrgios has got some nominations. Ian Gary, me for some reason. I mean, yeah, Ian Gary had a nice little combination here in his fight, and he won, but I don't know if he'll get if he'll get Legend of the Week. I'm not willing to give it to Kyrgios yet, and I'm tempted to give it to Broad for the most expensive over ever, but I think George Russell should probably get it. Yeah, you know, just for a selfless thing, check in on Guan Yu Zhou. We'll give him Legend of the Week. Well done, George. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Another big week in sport ahead, so till then, I will catch you all next time. See you later, and bye-bye.